The Legend of Heroes Trails from Cold Steel 4 is dropping on the Nintendo Switch in North America in a little over a week, so April 9th, 2021. It actually did drop in Japan on March 18th, 2021, so it's actually already out in Japan. So what I decided to do is just have a look at the game and see how it performs on the Nintendo Switch, at least using the Japanese version, which other than language and translation, and that should be, it's basically the same between the two. So what I'm going to do is just have a look at the game here. I'm going to look at it in handheld mode. I'm going to also look at it in docked mode, which it's in right now, to see how it performs. I can play around with some overclocking too if we find that the frames just aren't keeping up or that there's some issues there. So we'll have a look at that. And then I'll just do a real quick cut to some PS4 gameplay and some PS4 of the cutscenes so that we can really see the difference between them, and if the Nintendo Switch is able to keep up, which is really cool. I'm actually took interest in this not specifically because of this one, but also because the Nintendo Switch version of Trails of Cold Steel 1 is going to be releasing sometime in 2021 for the Nintendo Switch. Unfortunately, just in Japan, but that does give hope that the Trails of Cold Steel 1-2 will be released in English for the Nintendo Switch, which is really nice because a lot of people don't have access to the PS Vita, and some of them don't have access to a PS3. And I mean, nowadays you can get it on the computer, but if you want to play it on a console or portable, the Switch is really going to be the way to go. So let's hope that it does end up moving to the Nintendo Switch in the future. But for now, let's have a look at the fourth entry to the series and see how it stacks up. Okay, so now we have a mild overclock on in handheld, basically to put it to the same clocks as in docked mode. However, we're going to be in a lower resolution because we're in handheld. So let's see how it performs now. Okay, so here we are back in the game. We're in handheld mode right now. No overclock, everything's at stock. Let's see how it performs in battle. So I'm basically just piggybacking off of the docked mode in the same spot, so nothing has really changed that way. Okay, so I'd say the general takeaway here is that the game actually runs buttery smooth in handheld. Could be to do with the, the potential resolution decrease, but it seems to run really, really well. This is no overclock or anything. To my eyes, the game looks actually incredible on the handheld too. I actually think it looks better and plays better on the handheld. So yeah, there you go. Pretty evident that these type games perform quite well on a handheld. And I played the earlier Cold Steel, as I mentioned, and PS Vita, and they perform really, really well. So it's not a surprise that it performs well on the Switch and handheld. All right, and here we are back in the game. This is in docked mode and some combat. No overclocks, just everything base. Let's see how it performs. Okay, so overall the combat appears to be pretty smooth. I don't see any problems with it, whether it's overclocked or not overclocked. It seems to run totally fine. There's no graphical issues. It doesn't seem to slow down even during the animations. Maybe a tiny bit, but it's really not noticeable overall. So it seems to run quite well actually in combat. So there you go. So we can see right off the bat, it's already kind of catching a bit. You can see that the frame rate is actually seems to be lower on the docked mode than the handheld. It could be just, that we're able to see it better because it's a larger screen and everything. But right off the bat, I would say it's definitely running at a lower frame rate. It's pretty evident. Yeah, like you can see right there, it slowed down quite a bit. The little bit of screen tearing you see there is not in the game. It's actually on my capture card. So that's just part of it, but okay, so it's pretty evident that during the cutscenes, there is a bit of slowdown. The FPS is not able to keep up, so you're dropping some frames. But yeah, so let's jump back out one more time. And this time I'm going to put a little bit of an overclock on it and see if these specific cutscenes clean up. Like, you can see there it's slowing down quite a bit. It's definitely playable, but it's pretty noticeable actually. So let's do that real quick. Okay, so here we are back in the game. I have applied a mild overclock. It's hard to show it on screen when I'm doing screen capture, but basically I have put the CPU up to 1581 megahertz. And the GPU down up to 768. So nothing crazy, but it's still an overclock. So let's see if this increases the performance in those cutscenes in general. Yeah, so you can see here it's not the overclock isn't actually making the biggest difference here. Okay, so I guess that'll pretty much do it. So essentially what we're seeing here is that in docked mode, the game is actually it's performing okay. In these cutscenes, there's a little bit of slowdown where it hitches a little bit. It's definitely not immersion breaking or game breaking, but it's evident. In combat and battle scenes, it doesn't seem to really make a difference. In handheld mode, you can definitely get better frame rates surprisingly out of the cutscenes, and there's no compromise in battle at all. So generally speaking, I guess that lower resolution that you get when you're in a handheld is actually, it's not compromising the visuals, and it's actually improving the performance. And this game, this series runs really well on things like the PS Vita. So Cold Steel 1 and 2 run really well on the PS Vita, and so This is obviously not going to be as fine resolution or the same performance as running Cold Steel 4 on the PS4. And if you need to have it at the best possible experience, I guess the PS4 would be the way to go. But the takeaway here would be that on the Nintendo Switch, it actually runs well enough to not be problematic and quite enjoyable all around. So there you go. So this drops in about a week, a little over a week worldwide. For the Nintendo Switch, April 9th, 2021. So yeah, it looks like it performs totally fine, no problems overall. But yeah, it almost looks like the way to go for this would actually be handheld, which for a lot of people is really nice when you're playing a role-playing game anyways that's not super action-oriented anyways. The visuals aren't the biggest part of the game, so handheld modes are often preferred by a lot of people anyways, me included actually. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Okay, so here we are back in some PS4 cutscenes. So you can see here that on the PS4, it is quite smooth right off the bat, substantially smoother than the Switch, but that's to be expected. I mean, it's a substantially more powerful device. Overall, the textures appear to be, relatively the same. I don't really see a significant difference in the textures.
After 2 weeks of confusion and panic, a sense of quiet has finally settled over Heimdall. This somber air comes after the funeral of Prince Olivert, a service unattended by his father, Emperor Eugent, who remains in a coma.